We got this from Forbes. New York's largest healthcare provider fires 1,400 employees who refuse to get vaccinated. Can I just say that firing healthcare employees during a pandemic sounds like not a good idea?
Huh.
It's like a bad idea, maybe.
Yep.
That was the first thought that crossed my mind. And my cousin's a nurse, and she worked with COVID patients, and she said the same thing. She said, "This is disgusting to do to these people."
They were called our heroes. We were literally
5 months ago.
hitting pots and pans outside, supporting them, and now they're literally being kicked to the streets with a caveat, because a lot of the people who are being fired are being denied unemployment benefits as another draconian step by the New York State that is going out of their way to make sure that people can't have enough money to feed their families, to feed their loved ones. And this healthcare provider, it was the Northwell Health Company. 1,400 people will go with a situation where they can't pay the bills next week because of this.
I got a friend, very, very, pro Joe Biden, anti-Trump, the whole time screaming, ignoring the riots, your typical establishment liberal type, just pro corporate shill. And boy, was it funny when they started posting on Facebook how they're terrified the vaccine mandates are here. I'm going to lose my job. I can't believe this is wrong. Why are they doing this? And I'm like, bro, you voted for it.
Yeah.
You voted for these.
You asked for this.
Yeah, like, I got to say, I feel bad, and I also want to laugh at the same time. I'm like, to see the cathartic release of, like, everything you were saying was a lie. I told you it was a lie, and now here you are, frantic. But I feel bad, because the whole point of me opposing this stuff was so that my friends wouldn't be dealing with this. But boy, I'm sure everybody knows some of these people that just won't listen. You know why? Because the demoralization is complete, as Yuri Bezmenov said. You can show them the true and correct, authentic information, and they will not accept it.
Another thing to really consider here is that these are medical professionals on the front lines. These are the people that helped cure people with COVID. These are the people administering the vaccine. These are the people that were literally on the front lines. If there's any experience that these people have, if there's any thoughts that these people have, we should be listening to them. We should have a conversation with them. We should not throw them to the streets. And that's exactly what New York State is doing in a two-tier society that is now here. And it's disgusting to see our, heroes, medical workers that are volunteering, many times working overtime, helping people in their worst states, now being thrown to the streets.
Well, that being said, I wonder how many of these people who got fired were dancing in the hallways and, that kind of stuff. Probably not these people in particular, but at the same time, look, there's a lot of criticism to go around for a lot of these people too, who went out from their New York health, care facilities, went out in the street clapping and cheering for Black Lives Matter and who were openly defying COVID lockdown measures. So.
And we're saying that Black Lives Matter protests were actually good for COVID and stopping the spread, and counter-protests were not.
I want to ask you, Luke, because last week when we had Shane Cashman on the show, he said something really interesting to me, and I'm curious what your thoughts on this too. He said New York has already seceded. Mm-hmm. You need a passport to go there, right? If you don't have the required, you need a physical card, proof, to actually use the services of New York as if it were a different country. And if you don't have what's required on the card, which is not just your vaccines, your identification as well. It used to be in New York, you could walk into any place and buy whatever you wanted. Now you need an ID and your vaccine passport. So he was like, they've implemented rules already that have basically excised half the population from being able to go there. That's like soft seeding as it is.
Exactly. It's a different society that plays by different rules. Compare New York to Florida. New York, Florida, the case numbers dropped, according to some estimates, even 95%. And when you go to Florida, the restaurants are open, stadiums are open, schools are open. There's no restrictions. There's no lockdowns. There's no two-tier society. There's no papers, please, everywhere you go. So we're seeing something that is slowly spreading.
Hey. West Virginia is the same. Give us some credit.
Well, it depends also where you go. There's liberal cities everywhere, even in Florida, like in Tampa, they're trying to implement vax passports as well. That needs to be called out, and they're fighting with the state. So there's different people pushing different things. But if you remember, one of the first things that I brought up last year, the first time I went on this show, was the need for a peaceful divorce, a divorce between the statists and the people who actually believe in personal freedom and personal liberty. Now we talk about it almost every single day.
Well, but let's. You were saying that in New York, you're not even noticing any of these things, right?
No. But I agree with what you say, and I want to comment on that because I was with my friend Sarah, who served in the Army for 5 years and then came out as transgender, and now she's living her best life as a woman. She said it the best. We were traveling from Nashville, which was super liberal, to North Carolina, which was more conservative, and we saw the differences just from driving from state to state. And the way she explained it was really well put. She's like, you know what, at this point, I don't care about California anymore. If they want socialism, let them have it, because I don't live there. That's the way she put it. I mean, they voted for it. I don't live there.
Yep.
She's like, we tried to explain to them that this isn't going to work. It's never worked. And she's like, the United States is in a very interesting situation because we have 50 different states for that reason, because each of those states has different needs and has different laws, because that's the way we were designed.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It will be interesting to see what flourishes and what fails. And I think right now, for the most part, I think California and New York City are failing.
52% of Trump voters want peaceful divorce. 41% of Biden voters. We're getting close.
Yeah, but the Biden administration is bailing out New York and California, giving them everyone's tax dollars, financing a lot of their sanctuary cities, financing a lot of their insane policies, financing just the total Marxist. And again, if Marxists want to live in communism, I don't want to stop you from doing that, but stop forcing other people to do it as well. I lived in New York City. We actually lived very close to each other. We didn't know each other. Like, this is the first time
Turns
we
out
met
they were
here.
schoolmates.
Yeah, we were actually schoolmates, which is pretty interesting. But I left. I said, I'm done incentivizing. My taxes, I don't want them going here. It's unethical. It's immoral for my taxes to be going here. My energy, my time, my social circle, it was hard to end all that. I literally went up to New Hampshire, no plan, and I became a part of the Free State Project, and I love it there. And I love coming down here. I love being in Florida, and I love incentivizing and voting with my actions what I personally like. And I think if we need to do anything, it's to be aware of the small decisions that we make every day in our existence, because those decisions matter the most and they mean the most as far as impact. Because again, they could only get away with this if we allow it to get away with it. You can't comply your way out of tyranny. It's not going to happen. And what's happening in New York, California is absolutely tyrannical. You want to live under it? You love it? Stay there.
I would love this to, instead of referring to these cities as liberal, just start referring to them as authoritarian, because I'm a liberal. I'm very liberal in my behavior. I'm not a liberal. I'm just super liberal. I like liberal with sexuality, liberal with what you do with your life. You know, libertarian is liberal. I mean, that's the same freaking root. And
I hate that they took that word from us.
Doesn't
I
make
really
any
do,
sense.
because we are. So we call it classic liberal.
Classical liberals are
definitely
like
classic liberal.
classical liberalism is a center-right position that
Now.
leans towards. No, it's always been.
Oh, yeah?
That leans towards libertarianism, and then what we refer to as traditional liberals is actually social liberal. So, like, I've actually read a little bit different writers about social liberalism versus classical liberalism. They're very much the same, and that's how it used to be. It used to be classical liberalism versus social liberalism, where you have social liberals saying that this was like the civil rights movement. Hey, the state needs to stop this. And the classical liberals were like, private businesses can do what they want.
Live and let live, yeah.
Now it's the Democrats that are actually the ones saying private corporations can do what they want. But the problem is these are massive multinational billion-dollar unaccountable corporations. So they're basically fascists.
yeah, when social liberalism goes too far, you get authoritarianism. When you have the state trying to enforce civil rights, that's a form of authoritarianism, very small amount to do some good. But if it goes too far and then you start to force people to take medicine and force people to stand this way and say this thing, that's madly authoritarian and very dangerous.
I'd say it was a slippery slope, but I think it's a sheer cliff. Right, what we're on, and Luke was saying like we're on the precipice, and I'm kind of like, we went off the precipice.
I wanted to,
like we're just falling now.
I wanted to mention you mentioned that 52% of Trump voters wanted to secede, and 41 but that actually comes from a poll. The Daily Mail posted it, where they only polled 2,012 people,
Ian, you don't
and then they
understand
extrapolated 2,012 people to the entire United States, and the headline is "America Thinks the Unthinkable." More than half of Trump voters want red and blue states to secede. They only polled 2,000 people.
Let's slow down for a second.
1,000 Trump voters.
Let's slow down for a second. That's actually a pretty large sample size.
2,012 people out of 350 million?
Yes.
That's not large.
It is.
It's a large sample size for a poll, maybe.
Yes,
but it's a
it is.
terrible way to frame
just because
a 2,000 person poll.
Listen.
That more than half of the Trump voters want.
All right. So I'm explaining to you. As much as I'm not a fan of a lot of these polls and don't trust them, standards for polling, that's actually a decent
they're crap
number.
Standards. And we got to talk about now. You can have a poll that's disingenuous, and you can have a poll that's misframed, and this has been misframed.
Well, I don't think it's misframed.
It says that more than half of the Trump voters want it, and they only polled 1,000 of them.
That's how polls work.
They made a claim about 80 million people based off of a poll of 1,000 people.
I understand your argument, but there's no point in continuing if you don't know how the polls work.
I'm saying that it's a dangerous precedent to allow people to frame polls like this.
The problem with polling is that they'll say something like this. Like, let me ask you a question, Arielle. Do you think that we should use some of our tax dollars towards green energy so that we can, make the air cleaner and our water cleaner?
Sure.
Okay. Let me ask you another question. Do you think that we should have a massive government overhaul and increase in taxes restricting what private businesses can do?
No.
Okay, you're for and against the Green New Deal.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's the way you frame it. Yeah. I know what
the
you're trying to
question
say.
you asked will get someone. So we'll say, like, we asked, now polls typically release their questionnaire. So they don't do that as overtly. The problem with political polling is that they'll always interview more Democrats. The problem isn't the sample size. There's a 500 is a bad sample size. But what they do is they target regions. They'll go into certain areas with certain voting demographics, and they'll look at the age, the breakdown, and then they'll take a sample of those people and use them as a representative sample. It's not just 2,000 random people. And you can look at I'm forgetting the word. You can look at actually how they calculated this. They'll show you all the math. They'll show you all the questions. That's actually not bad, 2,000. Now, you need to check the question they asked, but it seems like that actually tracks with other data we've seen where 37.2% of voters in general from independents, not just Republicans and Democrats, 37.2 want their region to break off and form its own country.
Okay, but this is like if you asked the four of us in the room a question.
No, it isn't.
It is. But
No,
okay,
no,
1,000.
Ian,
Say you grabbed 2,000 people, Tim.
We can't just keep
Listen to me. You bring the 2,000 people into a room and you ask them to a poll, and then you say half of all people think that. That's not what you did. You polled 2,000 people.
Ian, you need to stop. Okay, we're going to move on.
I definitely want to move on
because you need to read how polls work.
I know how polls work.
You don't.
They polled 2012 people and then said that it was half of the people.
Let's move on
okay.
and talk about something else. Read about polls. We'll come back to this. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.